Chapter 7, A New Discovery. 2 days later, the weather cleared. For the first time, Mary could see the moor in full sunlight. The sky was unlike any she'd ever seen. It was a sparkling deep blue. Small white clouds dotted the sky. The moor looked softly blue, not the dreary purple-gray that Mary was used to. Martha explained, "The colors are beautiful at this time of years. The storms go away for a while because the spring is on the way." "I thought it was always rainy and dark in England," Mary said. "Not at all," Mary laughed. "Yorkshire can be the sunniest place in the world. Just wait till the windflower bloom. Hundreds of butterflies flutter in the air. The bees hum and the skylarks sing. You'll want to be on the moor all day, just like Dickon." "I wonder what Dickon would think of you," Martha said, smiling. "He won't like me," Mary replied in a cold tone. "Nobody does." "But do you like yourself?" Martha inquired kindly, as her own mother had asked her when she was in a bad mood. Mary didn't answer for several moments. Then she said, "Not really, not at all. But I never thought about it before." After Martha left, Mary felt lonelier than ever. Mary hurried to the garden and ran around the old fountain 10 times. She could eat, laugh, and felt better when she had finished. She looked up again at the blue sky and tried to imagine lying in the fluffy cloud and just floating. Then she went into the kitchen gardens where Ben with Thrush and 2 other gardeners were working. Old Ben said to Mary, "Springtime's coming. Can you smell the good, rich earth?" Mary sniffed. She thought she could smell something fresh and damp. She thought that the weather had made Ben warmer too. Mary was watching Ben dig and she heard a soft rustling. The robin alighted on the ground. He was very lively and hopped all around her feet. Wait a minute. I think hope around her feet. He's never known a little girl before, Ben said. He wants to find out all about sheep. "Are things growing where he lives, in the garden with the old rose trees?" Mary asked. "Ask the robin," Ben said. "He's the only one who's been inside it for 10 years. A little later, Mary wandered off. She was thinking of how she liked the garden, and how she'd begun to like the robin, and Dickon, and Martha's mother, and Martha. She wasn't used to liking people. She found a path outside the ivy-covered wall. The robin flew around there too. He hopped about the bare flower bed, pecked at the ground, and pretended not to notice Mary. But she knew that he had followed her. This excited her. "You are the prettiest bird in the world," she exclaimed, "and you remembered me." Mary talked and chirped back to the bird. The robin puffed out his chest, flicked his tail, and twittered. She put her face close to his and tried to make robin sounds, but she knew not to touch him for fear of frightening him away. The robin hopped over to the flower bed and began to peck at worm. Then Mary noticed something in the dirt. It looked like a rustling ring of iron or brass. She went into the room and flew away to the treetop. Then she reached down. But it isn't a ring. It was an old key, and it's been buried for a long time. Something in the ivy. Mary put the key in her pocket. She decided to keep it with her whenever she went outside, in case she found a hidden door to the garden. She wouldn't ask for permission to go in either. Imagine making a special place for herself. As she thought, she stared at the ivy walls. "It's very silly," she said tartly. "I'm so near the garden. But there's no way in." The next morning, Martha returned from her day off with lots to tell Mary. "I told my family about you," Martha said cheerfully. "They wanted to hear all about the little girl from India who had been waited on her whole life." Mary said, "I'll tell you more before your next day off. Your brothers and sisters might like to hear about riding on elephants and camels and hunting tigers." "My word!" Martha exclaimed with delight. "That would be as good as the wild animal shows." Then she put her hand into her apron pocket. "I've brought you a present," Martha said. She took a strange object, a rock with striped handle at each end. Mary was mystified. She'd never seen one and asked what it was for. "It's a skipping rope," Martha explained. "Mother bought it in the padlock. Just watch." Martha went to the middle of the room and began to skip. She counted to 100. When she stopped, her cheek glows and her eyes very sparkles. She breathed came a little pants. "I could already skip for 500 when I was 12, Martha said breathlessly. She handed the rope to Mary. "Now you try," she said. "It does take practice, but Mother said there's no better toy. She says that skipping rope will stretch your limbs and make you stronger." Mary wasn't very skilled at skipping. Still, she liked trying and didn't want to stop. "Go skip outside," Martha said. "Mother says you should be outdoors as much as you can." Mary got into her coat and slung her new toy over her arm. She was about to leave when she turned back to Martha. "It was your waves that bought his rope, wasn't it?" "Thank you, Martha," she said so swiftly because she wasn't used to thanking people. When she held out her hand, Martha shook it. The handshake was a little formal, but Martha understood that Mary wasn't used to showing her feelings. Outside, Mary began to skip rope while counting. She skipped around the fountain, then into the kitchen garden. Ben Weatherstaff was staring at Robin. "Well," he declared, "perhaps you are the youngest and not an old lady with sour buttermilk in her veins." "I can only skip to 20, Mary said, "but I'm getting better." "You keep on going," Ben said. "That Robin will want to see you, I'm sure." So Mary skipped into the orchard. She wasn't used to so much exercise, but the more she skipped, the easier it became. At last she reached the path beside the ivy wall. The robin was perched on the long branch in the thickest part of the ivy, chirping over heat. Maria laughed at him. "You showed me the key yesterday," she called out, "but I don't believe you can find the door." Then something happened that could only have been magic. A gust of wind blew into the path. It was pleasant and strong. It blew some of the ivy branches away from the wall. They shriveled like a window curtain in the breeze. Maria grabbed the loose ivy. She had seen some things in the wall, a round doorknob hidden by the vines. She thumped on her chest. She held the ivy away from the door, touching the door with her fingers, and felt a small hole, a keyhole. Trembling, she took a rusty old key from her pocket where she had been hiding it. She put it in a keyhole. She had to use both hands to turn it, but somehow it did turn. She glanced up down the path. No one was coming, so she took a deep breath and pushed. Very slowly and quickly, the doors opened. She slipped inside and shut the door behind her. She was now inside the secret garden. How much is it? Oh, wait. Last chapter and going to eat rice. Okay. Such a strange place. The garden was the most mysterious place anyone could imagine. The walls were covered with bare branches. Wintry brown grass covered the ground. There were clumps of bare bushes and little wood trees. Mary knew that they were rose plants like she had seen in India. There were other kinds of trees, the climbing rose canes hanging down the curtains, and the vines that grew together, making a little bridges between the trees and tangle of branches. And vines made the garden seem so mysterious. It was very quiet, even the robins in the treetops didn't move. In a whisper, she said, "I'm the first person to speak in this place in 10 years." She walked over the brown grass, stopping under one of the vine branches, and she wondered if they were all quiet and dead. She hoped not. Even so, she was inside the garden, a world of her own at last. The sun was shining and the sky looked even bluer here. The robin flipped from one tree to the next. He chirped busily, telling her about the garden. She forgot to feel lonely. She kept thinking how beautiful it would be in the garden came alive. She began to skip around the garden, take it all in. There were little paths on the grass, stone benches, and moss-covered urns. Then she noticed a flower bed full of dried grass with little green shoots sticking out the ground. She remembered that Ben had told her, "There are things growing here," she exclaimed. "It isn't quite dead." She looked carefully. She found many more pale trees shoot among the old beds. Although she had never been a gardener, she thought she could help tend the little plants. She found the sharp sticks. With great care, she dug away the grass around a few plants. She dug up some little white things that looked like onions and then replanted them. When she cleared the space, she said, "Now the plants can breathe." She decided to do more each day until she had done them all. Mary almost forgot about lunch and had to run back to the house. Martha was very surprised to see Mary's rosy cheeks and bright eyes. She was even more surprised when Mary asked for the double helpings of meat and rice pudding. While eating, Mary asked, "What are those white things on the ground that look like onions?" "They're bulbs," Martha said. "The little ones are snowdrops and crocus. The bigger ones are daffodils, and the biggest are lilies and irises. Those sparrow live a long time. They spread out and have little ones." Dickon plants bulbs all around the cottage. "Does Dickon know about the flowers?" Mary asked. "Our Dickon can make flowers grow on stone wall," Martha said with pride. Mother said she would whisper things out the ground. Mary finished her pudding and went to sit by the fireplace. "I wish I had a little space," she said. "Whatever for?" Martha asked. Mary didn't want to give away her secrets. If Mr. Craven found out, she feared he might lock up the garden forever. After a minute, she said, "I don't have much to do here. I only have you and Ben Witherstaff to talk to, and you're both so busy. If I had the spade and some seeds, I could make a little garden." Martha's face lit up. Why, that's what Mother said. You could grow parsley and radish." "Your mother knows so many things, doesn't she?" Mary said. She said that a mother who raised 12 children learns more than the ABCs. Martha chuckled. "Now I've seen little garden set at the shop at the Whites. There's a spade, a rake, and a fork that costs but 2 shillings. "I have that," Mary almost shouted. "Mrs. Medlock gives me shilling every week," Martha said. "If we write Dickon letters, he could buy the tools and some flower seed too. Can you, Prince?" Mary nodded eagerly. "I have some chores to do for Miss Medlock," Martha said, "but I'll come back as soon as I can with some papers and pen and ink." Mary didn't get to go back to the garden that day. When Martha returned much later, together they printed a nice letter to Dickon, and Martha signed it. "Put your money in the envelope. Dickon will buy the tools, and he can bring them to you. Then I shall meet the boys who tame foxes and crows," Mary exclaimed. Martha sat with Mary until supper time. When Martha got off fetch Mary's slippers, Mary asked shyly, "Does the kitchen maid have another toothache today?" Martha looked uncertain. "Why do you ask?" "Because I heard crying again down the corridor. That's 3 times now, and there wasn't any wind today." Martha looked uneasy. She said, "You must not go walking about the halls. Mr. Craven could be very angry." Then she hurried away before Mary could say another word. Mary thought, "This is the strangest house ever." Thank you for listening.